Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. People who were on show like Super Nanny, World's Strictest Parents, or Scared Straight. What was the experience like? And what was the aftermath? My friend was on Super Nanny. They don't actually do anything. It's just acting. He and his brother are still exactly the same as they were before. I feel like South Park's edition of Super Nanny would be more accurate. He spit in my mouth. It's best not to get on his level. There is no trial too tough for Super Nanny. In just 3 days time, you're going to see a new Eric Cartman, Super Nanny Joe Frost, 3 days before she starts eating her own feces. It's from hell. I tease from here. I went to high school with a kid who was on Super Nanny when he was like 11. Apparently him and his sister's behavior weren't all that bad, and that one day a camera crew just showed up at his house. He also told me they were trying to force an emotional scene where he would hug his mom and say he loves her forever or something, and he was like, no, that's gay, and they were like, please, and he was like, no. They settled on love you mom. LOL chief. This reminds me of a Marine I know that tried to get on a cooking show. I can't remember which one, but he was talented and qualified to be on the show. They wanted him to cry about his divorce on camera, which he refused. They didn't select him. Good for him. MOS, allegedly, do not belong on reality TV. I knew a girl who was on Scared Straight. After the show she ended up addicted to heroin and going to rehab. Hope she got her life together. I guess she was scared left. Right? No, left. One of my friends in grad school was on Nanny 911 as a kid, maybe around 5 years old. There were a lot of kids in her family, and one of the biggest problems the nanny had with their household was safety. She baby-proofed the entire house and lectured them on safety precautions they have to take in their lives to ensure that the children wouldn't get hurt. She even gave them all helmets to wear whenever they rode bikes or four-wheelers. After she left, a lot of the safety precautions went out of the window, and later my friend told me that they still had the helmets but they were all sitting in a dusty corner. I remember that episode. I don't understand parents who don't make their kids wear helmets. You must have never visited the Netherlands. Agree. But in the Netherlands infrastructure has been designed for biking. Also the culture really helps. It's second nature to watch out for cyclists when driving. Edit. I think I have to clarify something. I don't mean that wearing a helmet is stupid or not wearing one has no risk. I am only saying that the Netherlands infrastructure has taken into account that there are a lot of cyclists. This reduces the risk of having an accident, not the severity. It's been an hour. I guess those people were not real. Give them time, Desi. Maybe their parents haven't gone to bed yet. We'll get here. We are just busy relapsing and walking on sunshine. Well, it's also quite likely that people on those shows have to sign pretty strict NDAs, particularly as many of them are scripted while being presented in a reality documentary format. I'm a little bit late to this one, but my younger siblings, mother, and then stepfather were on a program in the UK called Mums on Strike in the mid-2000s. The premise was that the mother would be sick of doing everything around the house and would be whisked away to a luxury spa for a weekend, leaving the clueless father in charge of trying to take care of the household duties. A lot of the conversations and scenarios were faked. I supposedly visited them for the weekend, but I did multiple different shoots across a few hours on the last day of filming, then went back home. They'd cause fights between the siblings by purposely creating situations where one was favored over the other, so the others would throw a tantrum. There was a shoot on location in our local town center, and they encouraged my little brother to run off into all sorts of different shops, causing hilarity as my stepfather tried chasing after him with 2 other children in tow. Too long didn't read. Contrived, exaggerated, sometimes faked, full of drama. Did they know beforehand what it would be like? Nobody in my family knew what we were getting ourselves into. It was definitely a completely different experience to what is shown on the TV though. Damn, that's rough. If I was the stepdad I would be fuming. There was a program here in Spain that was like Super Nanny but for teenagers. One of them was a guy who lived with his grandma and had a very violent behavior. During the show you could see how the guy changed and started having a better relationship with his grandma, but I guess it was just an act because when the TV crew left he killed her. Edit. Adding a local newspaper article about it. Edit 2. Link to a comment with a translation of the news article. Well, that went downhill quickly. Oh, cooler story where it actually worked. Oh, you. Well, shit. Yep, always be prepared to be disappointed. Like 3 years ago, I lived in a big 5-bedroom house with 4 other friends in college. The house was in an episode of Supernanny. We found out because our nice neighbor literally gave us a signed headshot from Joe Frost as a gift out of the blue. He literally told us, "I think you all would like this more than me and get a kick out of it." It made our week and we found the episode online and watched it. I asked about the family to the neighbor as our house was rented out and owned by a property company. He told me after the show the parents fought all the time, lost all of their money due to 2008 crisis, and lost the house to foreclosure. The picture stayed on our mantle for 3 years and I thought about that family every time. It was all nice and wholesome and then it crashed and burned at the end. My childhood home had been in a famous episode of a famous old TV show. I'd dox myself if I said which. It was so odd watching it. It was filmed before we bought it and my parents remodeled it. So it was weird seeing how it looked when we first bought it, seeing all the old stuff, and also my neighborhood. The outside of my best friend's house was also featured heavily in the episode. My parents loved pointing out bits they personally remodeled. I remember pulling that out. Ugh. Remember that awful wallpaper? That sort of thing. The funniest part was that they pretended a closet door was a bathroom door in the show. My parents actually built a bathroom there before ever seeing the episode, so it was really head spinning to see that. I lived in India. Once in my school when I was in 6th grade, these foreign kids pop up with a bunch of cameramen and stuff. Speculation went wild. We thought our terrible principal probably wanted to create a cool image for the school and was creating some kind of weird advertisement. Anyway, years later I saw a YouTube clip by complete chance of World's Strictest Parents. It was my school and those exact kids. They had come to and family, whose children went to my school. The episode was a lot of drama. The parents were kind of obnoxious, at least for the episode. However, the last I heard on asking a few friends was that those parents were fine and their children are doing reasonably well. Not sure about the foreign kids who came. What a small world. Seems like ages ago. Is the British episode with a girl with red hair? The boy and the girl smoke a lot. If so, that's one of my favorite episodes. You pretty much just described all of the episodes. I want the chicken nugget boy to answer so bad. King Curtis. She come in here acting like she's the queen, and we're just sorry people. Is it bad that neither I or my husband had ever watched this particular episode and we still find ways to quote this child's amazing lines to each other? Because if it's wrong, I don't want to be right. I didn't go on, but some classmates went on Super Nanny or Nanny 911. Can't remember which. They lived rather close to my friend, so I went over to his place to watch the filming and such. The nanny stayed in their neighbor's house across the street, and the kids' behavior didn't improve for a very long after the nanny left. From what I remember, they were trouble all through school. I lost contact with all of them during middle school. Edit. Just remembered. The parents ended up divorcing not too long after the show. I wouldn't imagine a nanny swooping in and putting a band-aid on the problem would fix anything like you said. If children are misbehaving, it's on the parents to tweak their parenting style to fix the problem. That's what the show was about. The nanny was there to be the professional to teach the kid the consequences and teach the parents how to follow with their rules. I had a friend on World's Strictest Parents. She was approached by a producer late one night at a McDonald's because she was 15, drunk, and wearing a stolen police hat. Apparently the producers hang around looking for kids there a lot. Anyway, she did her parent swap, was moderately wild, came back and decided she wanted to be a chef. I don't think she finished at culinary school. She had a baby at 19 and is a great mom to 2 kids now. How is the producer doing now? Great father of 2? Hol up, said the producer wearing the stolen police hat, which reminds them of the first time they met. Cue lovely music. I was on Scared Straight and my episode never even aired because they only select a very small amount of footage to make it look a lot worse than it actually is. Most prisons were pretty nice. In 8th grade our class took a field trip to the county's jail and courthouse. A few of the people locked up just flipped us off through the one-way glass and I think one mooned us. Apparently it never happened because the teacher was shocked, but we thought it was the epitome of comedy. It's not prison, just a jail, but most people there seemed pretty chill for the most part. I volunteered to visit inmates and do an informative class for them at our local jail when I was in college. They had one guard like 100 yards away from us around a corner. These guys I met and interacted with were all good people. They just made mistakes that led to a few months to a few years in jail. All non-violent offenders. They also knew if they tried anything, their sentences would go from a few months to multiple years. My brother went to school with a kid from the Scared Straight show. The comb my chest hair kid, if you have seen the show. He said that the kid used to get messed with after the show aired, but now lives a pretty normal life and stays out of trouble as far as he can tell. So I would say that the show works, I guess, lol. That episode was so funny. Yep, he did not know what to do. Think him getting a GF and later married kept him out of trouble. NGL, I thought the show was based on scaring gay kids straight and I thought what a terrible show that must have been. I don't know if this counts, but I was on an episode of Made on MTV. If anyone remembers that show, it was my senior year of high school. So about 7 years ago. People gave me crap about it forever and still do. I was made into a screamo singer. The experience is interesting to say the least. The money and flight trip to NYC though at 17 years old made the whole embarrassment worth it. Plus I work in the broadcast business now, so it really opened up a lot of doors and showed me a career I love. Seeing kids now that were in my shoes, so fascinated by entertainment media, makes me so genuinely happy. If anyone is interested, I'll tell more or answer questions. Not sure if that's the kind of show you're looking for. I was waiting for someone from MTV's Made. They came to my high school too and turned a classmate into prom queen. It wasn't a stretch. She was naturally pretty but went back to her nerd look right after they left. It was crazy how MTV made it look like she had no friends when she actually had a huge group she'd hang out with all the time. They also made her love interest look like such a jerk when he was actually the nicest guy you'd ever meet. Haven't believed reality TV since 2005. Still enjoy the ridiculousness of it sometimes. Oh, I loved Made. I thought that was a really positive show. Not like the Super Nanny. That deserves its own thread. I was on Super Nanny. My siblings and I were out of control kids and my parents frankly didn't know what to do. I liked being in front of the camera for the most part. It's like a mini time capsule I sometimes watch every once in a while and witness how cringe I was. Nanny Jojo set up this reward chart for when we were good. Heck, once they even filmed me in timeout, haha. So far this is the first potential real first-hand account in this thread from what I've seen. If you can say, what kind of NDA did you have to sign that may give us an insight into why there are so few personal stories about this topic? Can a kid even sign an NDA? I guess the parent would sign for them or something? What season and episode? Join our community Discord, link in description. My friend's family was on Nanny 911. They said most of it was staged and the nanny didn't actually have any effect on the family. Friend of mine worked on Nanny 911 in NYC. Nothing on that show happened unless the producers okayed it. They would come up with scenarios and plot points to film. You don't just shoot TV shows like that and hope that something magical happens. They created every issue. Reality TV is not real. Edit. The camera crew who worked on Nanny 911 also worked on other shows like Real Housewives of New York, Kitchen Nightmares, and Hell's Kitchen. Film business is a very small world. American reality TV is like that. Look at Gordon Ramsay's program about saving restaurants. Those first British seasons were so good. Then we got the over-edited and simplified US version. Made him a lot of cash. But man was bummed out by him ruining an interesting program. Edit. What I especially hate in US reality TV is the manipulation they do in post. The storyline is the same every damn time and that's simply impossible. Also the reactions. Who cries after seeing their boss's restaurant done up? Okay, but minus the fake drama. I would watch that show. A modern day Viking taking troubled kids under his wing and showing them the fun of the wild outdoors? That sounds awesome. Haha, yeah, the whole family thought it would be pretty awesome actually, and we were excited. I think we only would have received about $5,000 NZD in the end. So it was never about the money and more about the experience. I was pretty bummed with the way it panned out. Your dad sounds really cool. How's he doing in quarantine? One of the couples on the Super Nanny show got recognized and reported to the cops by their neighbors. I can't remember the name of the family, just that they had a few kids and that the older one had sometimes missed school to watch the younger ones. If it's the one I think it is, then that was a rough one. And good on the neighbors. I remember seeing that episode and being horrified because the oldest sibling was definitely being abused, and instead of calling CPS and getting actual help, the nanny just talked to the parents and tried to convince them to lighten up on the oldest and take some responsibility. Like the kid was literally shaking and looked like they might pass out the whole episode. If I recall correctly, she did pass out on camera. If you're thinking of the family with the 3 teen girls whose dad overloaded them with chores and treated them as live-in maids and full-time babysitters and still didn't think they did enough. According to the Super Nanny Wiki and TV Tropes page, the dad was arrested multiple times after the episode for domestic abuse. I'd like to contribute. Hopefully someone sees this. My brother was on a show called Violent Children. Desperate parents, and honestly they were brilliant. I wasn't part of this whole experience because I was in university at the time. But my father and my brother both were in this show and the show staff were honestly brilliant. Here in the UK, especially Wales where my family lives, mental health is not really a thing the poor have access to, and my family are definitely working class. This show gave my brother and my father access to mental health care they would have never have been able to access themselves, and made quite a large difference in both their lives. They continued to support my family for almost a year after filming with offers of more mental health help. And both my father and my brother are happier people today because of this. One thing I will say is the only reason we were featured on this show was out of pure desperation. There was basically no other way that my father could imagine getting help, given he'd spent almost 8 years fighting with the NHS to get my brother psychological help, all to basically no avail. My family were made into entertainment for the masses so that we could access something fairly basic. Something about the whole experience doesn't sit right with me at all. Happy to answer any further questions. Should have placed a serious tag. Now we'll never know, comma. When I was about 6, my sister and I were on a show similar to Super Nanny. They straight up told us what to do so they could get all the footage. And literally none of the solutions the nanny came with lasted more than a few days. 100% staged and acted. I know the super healthy family that was on the episode of Wife Swap with the chicken nugget kid. His dad ran a fitness gym and did boot camp with my parents. After that Wife Swap episode, their family did not change at all. My mom said that we had them at our house for dinner one time and the son ate all of the food he could get because his parents never let him have the kind of food we served at their house. They're doing really well now. The son is going to a really good college and the daughter is a Star Trek athlete. Edit. I don't know much about the chicken nugget kid himself, but last I heard, he's exactly the same as well. The daughter of the super healthy family says he started a GoFundMe so he could buy a guitar. A coworker was featured on Super Nanny. They had a pretty good experience filming and were so excited for their show to air that they hosted a watch party. I'm sure you can imagine what's next. The way the show was edited made the parents look so bad, like neglectful bad, and made the kids, who were pretty wild, look even worse. It ended up being a pretty awkward watch party. I mean, had they seen Super Nanny before the watch party? Because I haven't seen a single episode of it where the parents come across as awesome amazing people. Patiently waiting for Curtis from that one episode of Wife Swap to say something. Speaking of reality shows, my cousin was recruited for the Jerry Springer Show Halloween edition a few years ago when she was 18. They found her on Facebook, flew her and her 2 friends to New York, gave them shopping money, put them up in a swanky hotel and drove them around in a limo. In exchange, she had to pretend to be the mistress of her guy friend, who was dating the other friend. They had them catfight on stage and everything. I was a bartender at the time, and I literally watched my cousin on the Jerry Springer Show on the big TV at my bar with all of my co-workers. Edit. Here's a link to a teaser of her episode. She's one that slaps the shitty out of her guy friend. LOL. YouTube link. What about extreme makeover? Home editing. Were those people's actual houses and did they ever keep the house? I read somewhere else that the majority of families couldn't afford their property taxes anymore after they grew because of the work done on their homes and had to move edit. Source 1, Source 2. Bikes. I had a friend who was on the first season of Nanny 911. According to her, there really wasn't anything wrong with the kids behavior wise, but there were 7 young girls in the family and 3 were triplets. The craziness was dramatized for the most part, and the real reason why her parents decided to be on the show was for the paycheck so they could build an addition on the smallish house they had. Their father passed away very recently due to lung cancer from 911. He was NYPD and worked overnight, so they ran that house very strict. All the kids turned out great and they're all beautiful and unique young women now. Something similar. I dated a girl who ended up on Dr. Phil. I was in the Navy at the time and was in Hawaii or doing circles off the coast of Mexico. When I returned, our apartment was gone. My stuff sold off. Girlfriend nowhere to be found. Turns out while I was haze grey and underway, she broke into houses to feed an addiction to drugs. OD. In a public toilet and gotten arrested for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Now mind you, I was out to sea for the span of a month. I knew she had a past with drugs and I would take her to methadone clinics and AA meetings, so I wasn't completely blindsided. Well, getting back to the reality TV show. Somehow Dr. Phil got involved and she was given a choice. Go to jail or go on Dr. Phil. I really hate Dr. Phil. However, her segment was real. From the psycho mother to the not so bright girlfriend. To end the story, she ended up going to a rehab center requested by Dr. Phil to avoid jail time. Last I heard, she was good for a few years and relapsed again. I would also like to know how the houses from the Move That Bus show are doing, granted they were only made in a week. A lot of them end up losing their house because of the increased tax rate from the improvements. They actually had to start making the houses smaller and more realistic because so many of them were losing the houses. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.